Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go!
Hey, it's George, and I'm glad to have you back for another Flashback Friday. This is where I take a walk down memory lane with you and look at my first 20 YouTube episodes. This was back before I did Premiere, so I never got a chance to talk with people when these were being debuted. And also, I've had a little bit of time. Most of these were done over a year ago, and so this is a chance to look back and see things a little differently and talk a little bit about what things sold for and give some information that I wasn't able to give the first time. So we are going to have fun with this. A lot of you seem to be responding to these and think it's a good idea, so I'm going to keep going with it. I will get this one started and we will see something that I just recently updated, which was a view of my mall space in Snohomish, Washington at the huge Star Center Antique Mall.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so I'm going to let this guy talk a little bit, but I'm going to tell you some things that I'm seeing that I didn't see when I recorded this initially. You'll see there's a little head vase to the left of me there. She's Japanese from about 1960. They don't always have jewelry on them, and there are a lot of reproductions that look like her, but if you looked at the bottom, she had the original label on her, and that's what makes her legit, and that's why she went for $35, because she was a legit one. Next to that, you're going to see a really pretty yellow colored basket. That's Italian glass, but I'm going to let you look in my space and move over so you can see better. I am going to show you this. This still is here. I'm very surprised, but I think that I sold 2 of these in Florida. I just love this lamp with the owls. It is so much fun, and take a look at that crazy design and those great eyes they stuck in those. It's priced at about $85. That's what I got for the other 2, and I'm sure it'll sell, but it is big and it is kitschy, so it's a very specific customer, but they'll come along. It's just a great piece. Speaking of people coming along for things, the very pretty vase in the center there, that's Royal Vienna, and that one just literally today is actually going to a viewer in Alabama, and he's calling the mall and they're going to ship it to him. That's one nice thing about having things in a mall, is that if you can't be there all the time, they can take care of things for you. So I'm glad that's going to a good home. It's a very pretty piece. Now these are cool. These are the male and female decanters, and these were by Pottery Craft. This was one of the companies in my book, Treasure Craft Pottery and Pottery Craft Stoneware. They made these in the mid-1970s. They had a designer named Masa Fuji who they brought over from Japan, and he was their main designer at Pottery Craft. Now the overlap drip glazes were done by Robert Maxwell during his brief involvement during the Pottery Craft years. So the combination of the 2 is really neat, and those both sold right away at $95 each. I probably should have charged more. They were just really great. Now, my friend Stephanie shares this space with me, and she does a lot of vintage fashion and accessories, and so we always try to make a feature that combines a little bit of boudoir with the clothing that you're going to see behind here. That sweater there is Ted Lapidus. I had 3 of those that were in the store, and Stephanie sold 2 of them, and we still have that one left. It's very pretty, but a particular color. The big piece of glass there is Pilchuck School, and what that means, and that little lavender with the speckles right below that big perfume bottle, is also Pilchuck School, and that means that it was done by Dale Chihuly or one of the people who studied with him. In this case, the woman who studied with him was a woman named Susan Glass. She did those in 2004, and she passed away the next year rather unexpectedly, and so her stuff's starting to command a premium in the secondary market. The sweaters there are Dala of Norway. I sold most of those, but I just got a new shipment that I just put in. Shipment, I mean, they are genuinely vintage. Shipment meaning I got it in an estate sale. And then this pattern is great. This is Metlocks in its various forms. I still have the tray. I've sold a lot of the other pieces. It's Contemporana, American Freeform, and Mobile were the names of the different color patterns on those. And it's one pattern of China that still sells really well.
But a lot of people enjoy
here we've got the Genie bottle from I Dream of Genie in the middle, and then the two bottles around it are factices, meaning they are perfume bottles from a store counter, but they're factices or dummies, meaning they're not full of perfume, because that'd be thousands of dollars worth of perfume, but it's to show you what the bottle with the perfume will look like when you take it home. And they sell for about $100 a piece.
There are people that
now, a lot of the clothes here, the winter clothes are actually back in the mall now. So some of these winter clothes, like this really great Lillian suit coat, is still available, and it's a beautiful piece. Lillian is great design. If you see Lillian out there, you notice it was priced over $100, and there's a reason for that. It does sell well. Another thing that sells well, this is from the late 80s, I believe, but this is Coogi from Australia, with the many different colors in it, and this piece sold, I believe, for the tag price of $149, and it sold pretty quickly. It's made of cotton in Australia, and I think that the appeal is just that it's fun and funky, and it has this look of being handcrafted, but it's actually well made. This is a cute little piece. This sold for $35. This is a Miami Beach label. If you see labels with things that were actually made in America, you know that they're older, because we really don't make textiles anymore and haven't really since the 1980s primarily. And so that generally is going to indicate an older piece that you can sell for vintage. That gauzy dress sold for $45. And then these are a bunch of Joseph figurines. The bigger ones in the back are all music boxes, and they still command a pretty good premium. Those sold in the $50 to $75 each range, whereas the little girl figurines only sell for about $12 to $15 typically now. Now, there's another head vase, and then behind her is the Godey's Ladies book in the frame. Godey is the French fashion magazine that was so popular in the mid-1800s with the beautiful dresses, and they were so popular that in the 50s a lot of reprints were done, so you'll see a lot of framed Godey pieces that are actually 1950s vintage as well. Now, the marble clock, that's Art Deco. That sold for $85, beautiful piece. And then this is a neat piece of furniture. It's an old dental cabinet, and people love these because they have lots of little sorting drawers. This top opens up. You can use it like a bar. It flips open, and it had little sleeves where they would have had various poultices and things. Well, now you can use those for bottles. And here's the rest of the booth. It's a pretty big space. There's a reason I share it, that's for certain. This is a nice Pendleton wool sweater, and this one went for $25. Anything Pendleton that was made in the USA is likely to sell if it doesn't have any holes. You have to make sure, because of course with clothes, you know, there's a lot of critters that think they're delicious. So but we checked that one over. It didn't have any burn holes or any moth holes or anything like that. Now, there's a bunch of Native American I'm going to show you here, but I wanted to point out this pot. This is McCoy with the birds in flight, and that's going to be from about 1920, and that sold right away, I believe, for $50. The bottle on the right there with the beads is Tlinket, and beaded bottles are fascinating to me. It's just such a neat idea that somebody took the time to do that. And then down on the bottom here, the sealskin moccasins are Alaskan, and the stone pieces are Columbia River Gorge. There's a lot of interest in stone tools that are Native American. They're actually selling even better than the baskets right now.
So while I'm thinking of it, please comment in the space below here, and also hit the thumbs up button to like this video. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button below. Also, hit the bell below to be notified of new videos coming every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And thank you so much for following along. Let's go back to this video.
This is a cute little shelf. So everything over in this shelf is 1940s or 50s, and these are all things you would have used around the house. The pig is a razor bank. The elephant is a sprinkler for your clothes so that you can get a little bit of moisture on them back before steam irons. And then you've got spoon holders. The horse with the little squares in it, those squares would be to hold the ends of toothbrushes. It was a cute thing to get the toothbrush off the counter so it didn't leave a mess. And then in the back, that's another sprinkler bottle. That one is actually by Shawnee Pottery. And so these all sold, and they're all gone, between $15 and $35 depending on the piece. All of that cute stuff does well. This particular shelf has some cuties as well. I'm going to show you on the left here. These are nodders. That's what they were called before the term bobblehead came up. I always think of bobbleheads as being the newer ones made of plastic, and nodders as being the old ones made of ceramic or a composition material like these are, which is why they're scarcer, because they would fall over and get broken. I guess that's why they switched to plastic later. The magnet in their lips is what makes them kiss, and those are banks as well, and they sold for $40 for the pair, which is a pretty good price. Was definitely happy about that. Now let's move my head out of the way so you can see I put a lot of colorful glass in this window because it gets a lot of sun and the sun won't damage it, and it's also a neat place to show off this uranium green from the 1930s.
In this case here, we have an unusual
There's a piece with the fishnet. That is Herend or Herendi from Hungary, and the fishnet is very popular. Andrea by Sedek did a copy of that because it was so popular in the 1980s, and it's very popular to collect again. I sold that piece for $75. You'll see that Stephanie has more perfumes and more jewelry and more little accessories in the case, along with figurines and sweet stuff like that that goes together. That bowl with the flowers on the bottom is a very nice RS Prussia bowl. Those used to sell for a fortune. They only go for about 65 or 75 now. They used to sell for 100 to 200 more than that. And then this is a signed piece of paper by the Mills Brothers, who were a very popular singing quartet back in the 1940s. Paper Doll was their big hit that got them launched, and that was actually signed by them to a gal in Seattle who played hooky from work and lost her job to go see them, but she didn't care. She had a great time. Someone bought that for $25 on eBay. This railroad bag sold for $20. That was actually kind of on the cheap side. The old railroad bags do well if they're in good shape. And then here's a bunch of Blue Danube and Vienna woods ware. This was very popular in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and a lot of people are looking for pieces as replacements. And so I've been selling this collection off a little at a time for, gosh, probably the last year and a half. I'm sold probably 2/3 of it. This is neat because it was a store display back when you would get your Slurpees in those little Disney glasses, and I took it to Florida and had it at, I have two prices on this, which is kind of dumb. The one on the left says $129, the one on the right says $100. That's because I didn't sell it in Florida, and then I misplaced the tumblers at some point, so I've got to get that put back together. I still have that piece. It needs to be reunited with itself, and at some point I'll get that done, but it should be worth $100 easily because you don't see the cardboard display ever. There's some more glitz and jewelry and little half dolls, and then down here a whole bunch of sports cards. If you go to my eBay at the Antique Nomad, you'll notice the sports cards and books are the mainstay there, and then I do additional items when I'm able. So if you like sports cards, it's a good source for them. The lucite purses are really neat. They need to go to Florida. I don't know why they haven't sold in Washington, but they will go where they belong. And speaking of belonging, well, there's Wilt Chamberlain belonging, and this is the Lord Calvert mirror. He was one of the NBA's most prolific scorers, and he was one of the most prolific scorers off of the court as well. He boasted after his career that he had many, many, many illegitimate children spread around the country from his travels in the NBA, and so maybe there will be future basketball teams to come. This piece here is Picasso-esque, but it's actually by a Chicago artist named John Rogan. I have not been able to find out a lot about this artist. I think it's interesting in the color and the design. It's very specifically modern. It's going to be something that catches someone's eye, and they're going to love it when everyone else looked at it and said, oh, my kid could have drawn something like that. You know, modern art is not something everybody understands. So waiting for a buyer on that one. Now, I'm showing off the treasure craft horse, but let's ignore him because you can see him in another video I did. And on the left, I'm going to point out this imperial green threaded picture set instead, because the picture set is really beautiful from the 1930s, and that threaded pattern just has a real look to it that is different than most elegant glass of its era. So I wanted to point that out, and it's only $45 for that whole set. Now here we have a little 1930s metal doll cabinet and the washette. And the washette sold to the most unlikely guy. I took it to the Packwood Antique Show the next time, and it sold to this very heavily tattooed man. And he just thought it was the cutest thing, and his mother had one, and he remembered it growing up, so he had to have it. So you never know who's going to buy things.
This little piece down here.
Then this little desk I just took to Centralia. It needed a little repair. I think that's why it didn't sell here. Desks are selling like crazy now, though. I've already had an offer on it. I don't think it'll be there long. It's priced at around $200. It came out of a San Francisco estate, so it's actually a pretty lovely piece that they paid money for back in the day. It might be John Whitcomb Company. I haven't found a mark to be able to be sure. I still have this piece too, this hanging shelf. On the hanging shelf, you'll see that brightly painted mug. That is a part of a cider jug set. You'll see Crazy Lamp Lady. She and Drew went through a period where they kept finding cider jugs and the mugs that went with them, and that would be one of those. Cider was very popular in the late teens and the 1920s because you could make hard cider at home when it was Prohibition time and you weren't able to buy booze out in the marketplace. That's actually why cider was not popular in the United States until recently, because so many people who were older, that's all they had for a while, so they were tired of it. The roosters there look like Royal Copley, but they're actually Stuart McCulloch out of California. And then we have the little Crazy Daisy Pyrex butter dish. Butter dishes always sell for some reason. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't matter if it's the only piece that you have left from a pattern. They always seem to go. So pick up butter dishes with lids. The strawberry there, I'm not talking about in the video, but it is treasure craft. It's from about 1950. They did strawberries, they did bananas, they did apples and pears, and the strawberry is actually the hardest of those to find, and that will sell for around $27 to $30. And hey, look, he's back. So I guess I've shown you everything there was to show in the space, but there is going to be an update. In fact, there is an update that just came out. I just did a new Snohomish video, and you can check that out and see what the space looks like now and see what I sold and what's not there anymore, because a lot of it has changed. In the meantime, I wanted to say that I am very glad that you're with me here. If you haven't subscribed, please do hit the subscribe button, and you can hit thumbs up to like this video, ring the bell to be notified of future videos, and we now have memberships, so you can check that out and see if that's something for you too, and we'll bring you some extra content. So thanks for joining me. I'm George, the Antique Nomad, on Periscope, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we'll see you for more adventures soon. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below, click the bell to be notified when new videos upload, leave a comment below, and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media daily posts and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.